Hey, what's up guys? Kool-Aid here, and welcome to this week's installment of Attack of the Stats, the series where you guys suggest a loadout, game mode, and how many games you want me to play, and I do my best to see what kind of stats I can pull using your loadout over your suggested amount of games. This week's episode is going to be a little bit different in two regards. The first being that it is going to be the first time I have played Conquest. Normally it's been, team deathmatch for Attack of the Stats, but as suggested by this week's loadout winner, I am going to be playing 100% Conquest. And also I am going to be using two different games for this commentary. The reason being because I wanted to get a more infantry-based Conquest game along with a more vehicle-based Conquest game. So I am going to be playing this first part of the video on Wake Island, and the second will be on Grand Bazaar. And I want to quickly mention that Wake Island is probably my most hated map in this entire game. Earlier I did a thing on Scene Crossing TDM. Wake Island is to Conquest what Scene Crossing is to TDM for me. I really don't like it. I'm not going to go into it too much, but I just wanted to throw that out there before we get started. And one other quick thing I wanted to mention, next week there will be no voting for Attack of the Stats. As most of you probably know, next week for my channel is going to be Shotgun Week. I'm going to be using nothing but shotguns. Therefore, Attack of the Stats will revolve around nothing but shotgun use. I'm thinking of adding up all of next week's stats and using a whole week for Attack of the Stats. I'm going to plan on doing that. However, if you guys have suggestions revolving around shotguns that you think would be better than that, feel free to post them, and I can always accommodate, if I find one that I really like better. But I will plan on right now just using the entire week of, having a whole week of stats revolved around the shotgun. Alright, so let's get into this week's loadout. This week's loadout is brought to you by R. Spurdy or RS Purdy. I'm not 100% which way is correct. I could be wrong altogether. I'm sorry. He's actually one of my best subscribers as far as posting regularly, so I'm happy that he won this week. It's nice to be able to use one of his loadouts. He's been posting loadouts ever since the first week of Attack of the Stats, so it's nice to see him win. His loadout this week is the L86A2 holographic sight, foregrip, extended mags, C4 with my kit, along with the 93R as my sidearm. He also wanted me to use squad cover, which I was using and then switched once somebody else had it. I always run cover anyway. And he did want me to play 10 games on 64-player Conquest. The reason he wanted me to play 64-player Conquest is because he typically plays 32, and he wanted to know how his loadout would look in 64-player and if there was any bit of a difference or anything like that. So the first thing we want to talk about is the optics. He wanted holographic sight. That is what I normally use. I've talked about this a few times now. Cobra is what all the competition players use. I really don't think there's much of a difference. Technically, Cobra might be a little bit better. You might not want the little tiny zoom that the holographic offers. I actually really like it, and it makes so little of a difference to me. I think the holographic just looks sexier sitting on your gun. That whatever. I mean, I really don't care. Either one doesn't bother me at all, or either one to me doesn't really have an advantage over the other. So I just roll with the holographic anyway. He has me use the foregrip. Now this gun doesn't really need a foregrip as it has very low side-to-side recoil, but I don't think it's going to hurt too much either to use it. I know a couple people that have said that they really like using foregrip on it. I don't like this gun that much in general. To me, it just has a little bit of a slow rate of fire, and it doesn't do high enough damage like some of the other machine guns in the support class. So having said that, this gun's main selling point is going to be its accuracy. It is very accurate, if not, I think it's maybe the second most accurate gun in this class or in this kit. So by putting a foregrip on there, you are going to lower your aim down sight accuracy and kind of take away from the strength of this weapon. However, like I said, I don't think it's going to affect you that much, and overall, it's probably not going to make too much of a difference. The other attachment he wanted me to use was extended mags. This again is there's two attachments you should use here, either extended mags or heavy barrel. I prefer heavy barrel. This gun with that lower rate of fire and lower damage You get a lot of assists on medium to longer range, or you get outgunned by a lot of assault rifles or other LMGs very often with this gun. I've noticed playing these 10 games. So I would really suggest using the heavy barrel on it. Extended mags, however, is not a bad option either, especially on closer quarters maps such as this one, or if you are playing TDM or anything like that. Extended mags might be the way to go. I prefer heavy barrel. Neither are bad choices. I actually, I had a big talk with a friend about these LMGs, the smaller LMGs such as the L86A2, the RPK, and the M27 IAR, because once these attachments actually came out for these guns, I was very conflicted on which one to use, the heavy barrel or the extended mags. After talking with a buddy for a while, we kind of came to the conclusion that 15 rounds that you get with extended mags just isn't enough to justify using them. How many times do you actually go through 46 bullets on a slow rate of fire gun like this anyway? It's really not that often, maybe 2 or 3 times a game where you don't have a chance to reload, while going through 46 bullets. It's just, you don't get that much use out of extended mags. However, with heavy barrel, you are getting the constant, less of a damage drop off, along with the higher aim down sight accuracy. So you are constantly getting the benefit from this from almost every kill. So that kind of wraps up the attachment portion of this episode. My opinion of this gun as a whole is that it's a great option for somebody looking for an accurate, almost assault rifle-esque weapon while playing support. You're never going to get the same accuracy with any LMGs as you do with an assault rifle, just because DICE has integrated a basically an accuracy penalty for using support class. However, you are going to get the bigger magazines along with the higher suppression, but as a whole, I would rather use a higher damage or a higher rate of fire LMG. The higher damage guns such as the PKP to me are just more effective. If I were to use one of these more accurate, more assault rifle type LMGs, I prefer the M27 for the higher rate of fire. But this gun is still very good. I know lots of people that use it and really, really like it. If you are a fan of the L85, the assault rifle counterpart, this gun is going to be very similar in regards to the rate of fire and everything like that. That is one of the more accurate assault rifles, and this is one of the more accurate guns in the support kit. Okay, so I want to touch on the rest of the loadout a little bit. He does have me use C4, which I was very thankful for. I hate claymores. I think they're very ineffective. They've been nerfed really hard, which I'm actually glad because I hate getting killed by them. But overall, claymores are just not very good. Mortars do have a very, very specific use. I do like them in the game now. I barely get hit with them. I don't think they're made really to be used all the time, but they are made to be pulled out in very specific situations, such as for Conquest on Scene Crossing, for example. There's usually a tank that kind of paving the way with a couple engineers behind it repairing. You can often really cause this tank to retreat or kill the engineers by pulling out a mortar on maps such as that. But as a whole, I always run C4. Mortars just are very, very specific in what situation they should be used in. C4, however, is probably one of my main used means of destroying vehicles now. I don't play engineer as much as I used to. I have a lot more fun, C4ing stuff than blowing stuff up with the rockets. Even on infantry maps, you can still find very good uses for C4. Not so much Conquest as much, but Rush, there are a ton of uses for C4, such as defending MCOMs or blowing holes in walls. Obviously, you can blow holes in walls to get places on Conquest as much, just not as needed. Here is a very good example of how C4 can help in very specific situations on Conquest against infantry. I probably would have died to these guys had I tried rounding this corner and shooting them. My health was just too low, and there's really nothing else I could do other than lay a C4 trap for these guys, as I knew they were coming around the corner because they had been lit up by somebody. But anyways, you guys can probably tell that I really like C4, so let's move on to the sidearm, the 93R. Currently, this is the best sidearm in the game. I'm pretty sure that is a fair statement to make, and I don't think too many people will disagree with me on that, as far as just overall ease of use and overall effectiveness. This gun is just an absolute beast. You get double and triple sprays very easily with this thing. I do believe it's going to get nerfed in the next patch. I don't know when that is, when that's coming at all, but right now this thing is an absolute monster, and if you are trying to use, trying to get the best out of your handguns, I think the 93R is the one to roll with. It is just a lot of fun to use as well. That's why I probably have 700 or 800 kills with it total. But anyways, this is Attack of the Stats, so let's move on to the stat portion of the video. Once again, we will not be using score per minute. It just does not register in time. I was hoping it would. Actually, I have a small confession to make. I did not play 10 full games. I did play 7 or 8. However, it was a large ticket server we were playing on. The reason I didn't play 10 is because my friends kind of got tired. We all got tired and kind of quit. It was getting really late by the time I got these 7 or 8 games in. So I figured that was good enough to roll with, considering that they were played on pretty large ticket servers. So anyways, score per minute we did not use once again. I'm hoping that eventually they can make this register faster so I can use this stat, because I do like this stat. I not necessarily like the stat, but I would like to use this stat for this series. Win-loss ratio, we did win 5 games out of the 7 or 8 we played, 1.67 win-loss ratio. 64 player conquest, unless you are really vehicle whoring, you're typically not going to make a big enough difference to win or lose for your team. Yes, we were running a full squad, we were capping we're playing the objective the entire time, but there's just only so much you can do with 64 players. You can't carry an entire team. Usually, there are exceptions to every rule. You can definitely make an impact, but if the other team is better than you guys, or better than your team as a whole, I mean that's just the way it works. Moving on to accuracy, I ran a 19.4% accuracy. Now I said the L86A2 is one of the most accurate LMGs. However, it is still an LMG, so you are getting that automatically integrated, accuracy decrease that DICE has for every LMG in the game. I'm happy with 19.4 actually. Especially if you consider this is Conquest. I don't run nearly as high as accuracy in Conquest for the most part as I do in TDM. There's just so much more to worry about, so much more stuff going on. You're going to be getting longer range kills, or at least attempting longer range kills. Also, I was using the 93R as my sidearm. I typically use the 1911, which is going to be a much more accurate gun. The 93R is a little bit more of a spray and pray than the 1911. I typically run around the 30% with 1911. 93R is under 20%, I believe. So, I mean, that did have an effect too. But I am happy with 19.4%. When I do run the L86A2 in TDM, I typically run around the 21 or 22% accuracy with it. So, not a huge difference, but it is definitely a little different from, Conquest to TDM. Okay, so the last stat we're going to talk about is KDR. I ran an even 2.0 KDR, over 198 kills over these 7 or 8 games, and I'm happy with that. Conquest, you really expose yourself a lot more than TDM. I know those are nowhere near my TDM numbers, and just for that reason I just mentioned, typically you just really have to expose yourself a lot more. And 64-player Conquest, you're just not going to be able to pick and choose your fights as well as you do in 32-player TDM. So, I mean, there is that. But that pretty much wraps up this week's episode of Attack the Stats. Remember, do not leave any loadout suggestions this week. However, you can leave some suggestions on what you would like to see me do for Attack of the Stats revolving around Shotgun Week. Right now, the plan is to just run a whole week of stats and see what I can pull. If you have a better idea, please comment and let me know. That's definitely not set in stone. So yeah, please comment and I will definitely consider them. That's pretty much all I got. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to y'all later.